Welcome to the Next Generation Rockstars podcast. If you are trying to figure out how do you recruit and retain this next generation of rockstar talent, well, you are in the right place. Hey, this is Amanda Hammett, and this is the Next Generation Rockstars podcast. And today we have an amazing guest. Her name is Cassie Buckroyd, and she is with Columbia Sportswear, where she is the manager of well-being programs. Cassie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Well, I am super excited to talk to you today. You guys are doing some really amazing things. You guys are really meeting your employees where they are in life and in their professional lives, and we're going to dive into that. But before we do, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you?
Sure. So I am a native Oregonian, born and raised near Portland, which is where Columbia is headquartered. Just in my spare time, I enjoy the outdoors, which is, of course, aligned with our brand. So it's great to work at a company like Columbia where I can live my interests. I've been at Columbia for about 5 years now, where I started as the wellness program manager, really as an individual solo lone wolf, I like to call myself. I was the first person in that position, tasked with building wellness initiatives and kind of determining what that looks like. And so I've done that over the last 5 years. About a little over a year ago, we changed our model of how we look at total rewards, and I was then promoted to manager of well-being programs. So that includes many of our total rewards programs, so benefits, wellness, leaves of absence, and we've got a new HR digital communications arm that we're building up right now.
Very cool. So just a couple of things that affect people's lives.
Not busy at all.
Not busy at all. It's not busy at all. So let's talk a little bit about this Total Rewards program. I mean, before we turned on the recording, you and I were having a little bit of conversation about it. But, tell us about the pillars and tell us all about it.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I developed it based on Rath and Harder's 5 Elements of WellBeing, which is from Gallup. Really well researched, lots of data to support kind of the different components that factor into an individual's well-being. So we modified them a little bit based on, our population and who we are as a company. So the 5 are physical, social, emotional, community, financial, and career. So we really bucket our programs into those 5 areas. And I think it's important to know also that, that my team is not running all of these programs. So for example, community is a pillar that we really work a lot with our corporate responsibility team on. They're very active in the outdoor community. There's all kinds of, sustainability programs going on that really that are important to employees. So we really work with them on stuff like that. There's a volunteer program. And then career is things, that it ties into compensation and career paths, as well as learning and development and how we're doing performance management and things of that nature. Financial, 401k, compensation again. I mean, there's a lot that goes into all of these things. And then social, emotional, we're really into kind of building community here, creating those social connections within our employee population, and giving people the opportunity to get to know each other outside of the meeting room, for example. So we have a number of programs that tie into that, as well as things like, traditional EAP programs. And then physical is really kind of where we've got it dialed in. I mean, we're an active brand, we're an active company. One of our core values is to enjoy an active life. So, I walked into a situation where there was already a lot of, fitness programs and outdoor excursions and things like that. So that one's been dialed in for a long time, but we're really focused on building the other 4.
That's amazing. So, I mean, you guys have a lot going on, but give the audience a little bit of some context here, because your employees are age-wise maybe a little bit different than some of my other clients who are, on the older side of the.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I've been working in corporate wellness for 13 years and before I came to Columbia, I was more on the consulting side and program management. And so I've worked with lots and lots of employers. And the thing that really struck me when I looked at our data was how young our population is, and the fact that we have so many of the people who would be considered millennials in our population. And now we've got Generation Z coming up. So it was really important to look at kind of the things that appeal to that population. And the other thing that I noticed is that because we're younger, we are healthier. We don't have things like, chronic conditions that impact our employees. So we want to keep them healthy. And we want to look outside of the box of traditional well-being, which typically includes, the physical aspects of well-being and maybe emotional. And I think that's really what today's workforce is looking for, is kind of that holistic view into well-being. So including, the other pillars are really important: the community, the financial, and the career pathways. And so because our employees are they are younger than your average workforce, those are the things that we're really focused on to show value as an employer and attract, our workforce.
Absolutely. Oh gosh. So I have a lot of questions and I'm trying to just dial into one. But let's share some stories about what you are doing under each of these pillars, because you mentioned 5, and obviously you're working with some of the different teams on different things, but let's focus in on some of the ones that would be most important to this younger workforce, like, I don't know, the financial piece of it.
Right. I think that's a great example. And that's something that we've really been focused on. So for financial, we've got, our 401k program, things that are more traditional, compensation and things like that, bonus, all that. So, but really today's workforce, the younger workforce, they're entering with things like student loan debt. They're looking at potentially, buying a home, and then, people are pretty focused on their 401k and saving for retirement. So how do our workforce is looking at how to balance all of that. So we've got a lot of resources that we put in place to help support that. So anything from on-site classes on home buying and retirement planning, things of that nature, to a tool that we've put in place that helps employees prioritize how they're going to pay down their student loan debt, and it ties in their personal situation into the platform. So really understanding that, retirement is important, but our workforce probably has other things that they are concerned at before they can look at putting away money for 401k. So, paying down the student loan debt. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, just traveling across the world and across the country in this particular case, and talking to students or talking to young people, this is a number one concern for them. And it's keeping them from, buying a house or really being able to move and do the things that they want, because they're constantly, it builds into like this emotional fear, and it manifests itself physically, and it just becomes a nasty spiral. So addressing it head on and giving them the resources to do that, it actually affects other pillars that you guys talk about. So it's a win-win. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then some of our other pillars. So one of my favorites is career. I work really closely with our learning and leadership development team to look at what classes are being offered and how we can tie well-being into the classes. But they've done something really cool where they've worked with our senior leadership team to identify what are the key skills that our workforce needs to kind of build, for the future, to make sure that we're the company of the future that we want to be. And I think that the younger workforce these days are looking for things like that. They want to be developed, and they want those opportunities to expand their skill set. And so the learning and leadership development team has identified 12 capabilities that they work with our senior leadership team to kind of hone in on, and they're now building out their curriculum on these 12 capabilities. So that, number one, we're providing opportunities for employees to develop themselves, and then we're also building that workforce that we need for the future. So I think that's a really cool program. And I think it's a good example of how my team works cross-functionally with other teams within HR that are impacting employees. Yes,
absolutely. And I think I think that's really important, because some companies, they really do silo their HR functions, and it's really almost to the detriment of the employee long term.
Right.
Circling back though to the leadership and development that you just talked about. So these programs are are the individuals selected to go into these programs, or can they self-select? Like, oh, I have an interest in X. How does that work?
Well, there are a couple of different programs. And so there is a leadership program that people are nominated for, and it's a year cohort that they go through, and these capabilities are woven into the curriculum along with other things. It's really meant to develop, the leaders here. But then I know that the team is developing classes that can be offered ad hoc that people can go in and sign up for. And it really, they're creating kind of a blueprint that help people determine where they fit in based on their level and where they're at in their career and the things that they want to develop, and kind of create that blueprint or that path. And so people can self-select into different classes.
That's really, really cool. Oh, I love this. I love everything that you guys are doing. All right. So we talked a little bit about the financial and the career. Let's talk about the community pillar, because that is uber important to the young employees. It's something we talk about all the time. So how are you guys really taking that in and helping them do that?
Well, I think, so I mentioned that we have a corporate responsibility team here, and they work on things from sustainability, and, employees really care about that. So I think in that regard, making sure that employees are aware and we're telling the stories that that team is working on is one component of that. But then we also have a team that focuses on kind of our relationships with different nonprofits that are working on issues that tie into our brand. So environmental issues, national parks, things of that nature. And so again, that's really important to our workforce. We work with one nonprofit, and the name is escaping me right now, but recently that team sent out a survey, and employees got to give their voice to which environmental issues that nonprofit was going to focus on within the next year. So having a voice in what issues are being worked on is really important. And then we also have a volunteer program where employees can use hours and log those hours towards volunteering with a nonprofit of their choice, or the issue, or the what have you of their choice. We have 16 hours a year where employees can do that.
How many hours a year did you say?
16.
All right. Okay. I mean, that's a sizable, and those are paid days that they can take and do any kind of volunteering that they choose. That's wonderful. Oh, I love that. I love companies that do that and that really put their money where their mouth is. Really, there's, because a lot of times companies are like, oh yeah, we want you to be involved. We want you to volunteer and give to the community. But you guys are really actually enabling that to happen, because we do lead such busy lives between work and home. It's hard to really kind of step away from it all and be able to be supported in that way to do that. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for enabling that. Wonderful. All right. So, I mean, we've talked a lot about some of the different pillars, some of the different programs that you guys have going on. And I'm sure that we could sit here all day and talk about other wellness programs that you guys have in motion. But how are you seeing this affect the younger employees? I mean, I know that you guys are just really starting to get this kicked off, but how does this affect?
I think we hear stories and things like that from employees who get emails. But I think, it's a feeling, I suppose, and the relationship that we have with employees that they're feeling supported. So for example, with our paid parental leave program, we just launched that last November. When we launched that, it was done in an employee meeting, and employees applauded and danced in their chairs and were excited. And so, I mean, those types of things mean a lot to employees. And then for me, it's important to have relationships with our employees. And so I get employees walking up to me and telling me how different programs or initiatives or what have you affect them personally. So I don't have a lot of data. We do surveys every once in a while, but it's really those kind of anecdotal, qualitative things that we have right now. And I think, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. So since you brought up parental leave or any
Oh,
of
yeah.
your parental policies, let's dive in. And because this is a hot topic in the United States,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And so I'd love to hear what you guys offer from the beginning stages of parenting, very beginning
Sure.
stages of parenting through to support parents as their children are growing.
Right. Well, so in addition to, at the time that we launched our paid parental leave program, which offers paid time off to all new parents, so men and women, those who adopt children or obtain legal guardianship, as well as birthing parents. There's that. And then we put a resource in place with a new program where employees are supported from the time that they're planning to have a family. So this platform supports employees through fertility and things of that nature. We've also put some benefits in place to support employees through that. And then pregnancy, and it ties into, it's very personalized, it ties into our benefit programs. And so this platform knows for that specific employee what health plan they're on. And so it directs them directly to the resources for the benefit program that they've enrolled in. So that's really useful during pregnancy so that they can, look up things like, where do I go to get, a breast pump or something like that? Or where can I go if I'm having, postpartum depression, where do I go for emotional support and things of that nature? And then there's the new parents. And so the platform supports, new employees on the return to work and integrating that new family life with their work life and things of that nature.
Wow. Wow, I have a feeling that people are going to hear this and you might get an upswing in applications to Columbia. That's wonderful support that so many companies aren't offering, but it is a struggle for young millennial families that are looking to dual working parents, and something's got to give.
Mm-hmm.
What is it, unfortunately?
Right.
And you've got to meet your employees where they are. We don't live in an economy where you can just dictate this is how it is. It's just not the world we live in anymore. So I applaud you guys for even thinking about and doing something about that. That's really wonderful stuff. And I'm sure that your employees appreciate it tremendously. Okay. All right. So as we have mentioned, we could probably talk all day long about this. But do you feel that, and my question, I guess, is for someone who is looking to start a brand new program, a brand new wellness program, do you have any advice for them that they have, let's say, nothing in place? What advice would you give to them?
I'll just talk about how I started here, and I really think if I were to go back and do it again, I would do it exactly the same way. And so really, there are a number of corporate wellness-oriented organizations out there, like WellCoa, Hero, and they have different checklists and kind of assessments that you can measure your organization against. And so I think kind of conducting that initial needs analysis based on, you can use the pillars of wellness from Rath and Harder and Gallup, or you can use, other pillars of wellness, but really kind of looking at what is there and what is not there, and then prioritizing. So for example, when I did this assessment way back when, I mentioned that we had physical health dialed in, but I noticed there were some kind of foundational pieces that were missing, like a good communication strategy, branding, and things like that. And so I really kind of started with kind of our communications and things like that, and then build the programs and things of that nature. And I did, because we were so dialed in and we have a healthier workforce than what I'd seen in the past, I looked at topics that were a little bit outside of the box. So I remember I launched in that first year with a mindfulness program and financial wellness, and things that I really thought our employees would value and kind of latch onto. And so I think, that needs analysis is critical to understand, who your employee population is, what their needs are, what you already have in place and what you can leverage, as well as who you can collaborate with within your organization. So partnerships have been really critical for me here at Columbia. I mentioned our corporate responsibility team, learning and development, and then even our facilities team has been a really critical partner for me in getting our fitness room, improved, and holding events and getting rooms set up for lunch and learns and things like that. And so I really don't know that I would have been able to take things where they've gone without those partnerships.
And that's wonderful. And I love that you have been able to launch these things and get these cross-functional teams, these different departments really on your side. Do you have any advice for someone who is looking to start something like that within their own company and how to approach a different department about forming a partnership?
Yep, I do actually. I think it's really critical to listen. And a lot of times folks are very engaged. Wellness is cool. It's something that people want to be a part of and they see the value in it. But other times they might not, and they might feel like, you're just adding to their already huge workload. And so I think going in with a curious mentality and really listening to what they're trying to achieve, and then figuring out how a wellness initiative could kind of leverage or augment what they're doing. I really think approaching with curiosity and listening is critical.
I think that that's critical in a lot of things that we can see a lot more of. Okay, wonderful. Oh my gosh, this has been just a wealth of knowledge, and I really, really do appreciate it. You've just thrown so much out there, and I think you've actually kind of thrown out a gauntlet for other companies that need to take a look at this and say, how can we do better for our employees? So thank you for setting that standard. I appreciate it, and I know that your employees sure do. So, well, thank you again, Cassie, for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. And thank you guys for joining us today, and we will see you in the very next episode of the Next Generation Rockstars podcast. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the Next Generation Rockstars, where we have discussed all about recruiting and retaining that next generation of talent. So I'm guessing that you probably learned a tremendous amount from this week's Rockstar leader. And if that is the case, don't keep me a secret. Share this episode with the world, but really share it with your friends, with your colleagues, because they also need to learn how to recruit and retain this next generation of talent, because these skills are crucial to business success moving forward. Now, of course, I want you to keep up to date every single week as we are dropping each and every episode. So be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast platform of your choice, and you will see the Next Generation Rockstars show up just for you.